Ladies and gents, welcome back to another Engineers Podcast. Today we're joined by Sander Mack, who's Director of Technology at Picnic. And for all of our longer standing or longer listening engineers followers, you'd have seen that we featured Picnic back in 2020, where we spoke to their CTO, Daniel Gebler. For new joiners, they're a grocery delivery platform that services the Netherlands, Germany, and France. Today, we're going to be talking about a number of really interesting topics with Sander, particularly around their tech academy, customer excellence, and when to introduce new technologies to a business. Sander, thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here, Edith. Thanks for inviting me.
Do you want to give the listeners some insight into the director of technology role at Picnic and what it is that you do?
Sure. So I joined Picnic as part of the tech leadership team in 2019, so a bit over 3 years back. And before that, I was active much in IT consultancy. I have a background as a Java developer. Also, gradually moved towards, let's say, a architecture and management role. And at that point, I learned about Picnic. Was quite blown away by what the company actually did, and I was already a customer, so I was really, really excited to join this scale up in the Netherlands. And what I saw there is that there's an amazing team, and they're doing great work. But they're also scaling super fast, right? So I was, I believe, number 60 in the team when I joined in the tech team.
Wow.
And by now, we're well over 300 people. So you can imagine that a lot has happened, both on the technical side, but also, let's say, on the team organizational side of things. And I've been able to contribute on both. So especially in the early years, focusing very much also with the store teams to see how we can actually support this growth and this scaling. Um, but also noticing that as we grow as a team, we need to do so in a sustainable manner. So also setting up, as you mentioned, for example, the Tech Academy, which is pivotal, as we'll discuss later, in our strategy to keep growing our people and our team in terms of knowledge and in terms of a diversity of experience. Um, so these are initiatives that are not directly, let's say, hands-on technical, but that do contribute to the continued growth and the sustainable, let's say, future of Picnic in our tech
Yeah.
team.
I'm really looking forward to the Tech Academy part. We're always having discussions on engineers around engineering levels, building out features, system designs, etc. So
Mhm.
I'm really interested to understand Picnic strategy and how we talk about that more. Grocery delivery platforms over the last 12 months, especially, have obviously hit our news and headlines for various reasons. Can you talk to us a little bit about Picnic and Picnic's offering and why you're slightly different to some of these businesses?
Yeah, definitely. So when people think of online groceries, they usually think of, let's say, the more quick commerce kind of players, right? Where you might order on a Friday night a snack or might
Yeah.
order a meal. We're different in the sense that we want to make it fun, easy, and affordable to do your weekly groceries with us, to have them delivered to your home. And that is where we focus. So we support families. We free up their Saturdays so that they don't have to drive to the supermarket anymore, and they can spend more time, let's say, out on the soccer fields or with the kids. And so what we do is we have an app only approach. So you have an app where you can do your weekly groceries in a super intuitive fashion, also very data driven, and where we can, of course, see what you did before and then help you in quickly putting together your weekly groceries. Also have a lot of inspiration for you in the app in terms of meals and recipes and things
Oh,
that you
great.
might want to cook for your family. And then we after you place the order, we deliver this to you, and we do this using electric vehicles that we operate ourselves. So these are sustainable small vehicles that are super tailored to inner city logistics, and this is what you get at the door. And in that way, you get your groceries, you get it at an affordable price because, of course, we don't have to run the stores like other supermarkets do. We can directly from the supplier deliver to you from our fulfillment centers. And that is something that is, like I said, it's fun, it's easy, and it's also affordable for people to keep doing so and make this a habit that sticks.
Awesome. You hit the news as well over the last couple of years
Mhm.
with a huge amount of funding from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And do you want to give us a little bit of insight into what that money, I think it was 600 million euros, will actually be used for? Both expansion, but also engineering as well.
Definitely. So the investment that we got is indeed for these reasons that you just mentioned, and we are currently active in the Netherlands, where we have a pretty broad coverage already. But in Germany, for example, we are currently only active in one region. So we are active in the Rhine-Ruhr region, which is close to the Dutch border. There's much more people that we want to help out with our services, right? So this is something that we plan on doing and that we want to give a big push on in the coming let's say coming time. Uh, and obviously, putting fulfillment centers in the country, buying these vehicles to drive around, it's all costing money. But on the tech side, as you mentioned, we are also in a position where we now have much more automation than we ever had before in our fulfillment. So the fulfillment center that I talked about, where we pick the groceries before they are delivered to a customer, we started out with manual fulfillment centers, where we have people doing this picking and making sure that the orders are correctly picked for the customers. As you can imagine, if you want to scale and if you want to offer even more customers the opportunity to order with you, automation is the key here. So what we did in the past years is we developed a fully automated warehouse where we now have in Utrecht in the Netherlands the first ever version of this picnic automated warehouse live. But it also means that a lot of robotization, a lot of automation means that we needed to develop a lot of software to control this. This is quite a different feat to pull off if you compare it to a manual warehouse. So that is also where we've invested heavily, and this is also where we currently are in a position to also roll this out in other places, of course, and make sure that a huge country like Germany can also be served efficiently.
I felt that from Daniel 3 years ago when I first discussed Picnic in the infancy of robotizing warehousing
Mhm.
and what it would actually mean. And I can feel that journey all the way through from robotizing a warehouse, building the software to make sure that it's maintainable, scalable, but also feeling how you're describing what the experience actually feels like for families through the app, and then using electric vehicles to actually deliver the groceries. That experience feels really slick, seamless, sustainable. It's a great model.
Yeah, so we're really happy with how this is turning out, and this is also, by the way, why the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation invested
Yeah.
in us, right? So they are very big also on sustainable investments, and Picnic is definitely leading the pack there. Just to give you an example, I mean, of course, the electric vehicles are a very, I would say, easy target here, and they're obviously sustainable. But what we can also do, because we have this app-only approach, and everyone orders a couple of days ahead or for the next day, we can be very precise in what we buy from our suppliers. So we have much less waste in our chain, for example, than a regular supermarket, which is another aspect of sustainability that people don't really think about too much when they hear about us. But that's definitely another benefit that the model also brings. And so there's a few more of those, and taken together, I think you can definitely see why the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation actually sees Picnic as a
Yeah.
sustainable company.
Yeah, I think when you actually put your mind to it, I've known one or two, not necessarily similar businesses in the UK, but have done elements to what Picnic have done.
Mhm.
Food wastage, packaging is also really important. So I can understand the reasoning behind the investment. What kind of orders are we talking about daily to give the audience some idea of some of the engineering challenges that you'll no doubt have to think about and obviously understand how you build and how you scale for?
Yeah. So in our countries, we have multiple of these fulfillment centers that I talked about, and you should think of every fulfillment center doing on the order of tens of thousands orders per day. So taken together, we have yeah, millions of customers in these combined three countries, and that's it's a big feat to pull off, both on the organizational and the operational side, but also on the system side, as you indicate. What you can imagine is that every night we have a huge puzzle to make in terms of how are we going to fulfill these orders? How are we going to plan the routes so that we have our electric vehicles put out there in the most efficient manner? So this is definitely a huge challenge, and in terms of scaling, something that's yeah, we have mastered, and we are now pushing forward. Also, like I said, in Germany and in France, and then maybe even more countries in the years to come.
Well, good luck. Good luck. I know from speaking to you, you still remain hands on, and you've obviously spoken quite passionately about a refresh in technology and looking at your stack and how you actually think about introducing new technologies. And that's obviously quite key to some of your workflow and the core of the business. So, getting it right, I imagine, is really important. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the tech changes that you've made and then also the decision making or the trade offs that actually slide into that when thinking about introducing a certain technology?
Yeah, definitely. So indeed, as I mentioned, have a background as a Java developer myself, so very much passionate about that still. Um, and if you look at the way we view technology, um, we are very deliberate about the technologies that we choose and that we use. So we have a tech radar kind of approach that is probably familiar with people listening already, but we also run this internally for our company where we keep an eye on emerging technologies, but we're not necessarily going to jump on them because everyone else is doing, right? It has to make sense also in our context, and this is something that we continuously evaluate. Looking at our tech landscape, it's actually remarkably, I would say, uniform and restricted. So we don't have 30 different teams doing 30 different tech stacks. You could do this if you're like on the microservices bandwagon, etc. But there's enormous drawbacks there as well to having this sort of sprawl of tech. So our main tech stacks are Java based and Python based. But having this deliberate choice and having made this deliberate choice also means that you can go all in, right? So that you are also able to keep up with all the latest developments in the stack. So this means
Yeah.
that we're running on the latest versions of these technologies, that we are very, very diligent in keeping up with that. Um, Especially if you look at doing this at the scale that we're now, like I mentioned, we're over 300 engineers. This is not a trivial thing to pull off. And what we also saw in the past 2 to 3 years is that we needed also to think very hard about how we can enable our product teams to keep doing their work on this
Yeah.
modern stack in the latest versions. And it turned out that you need a lot of automation to make this happen. So we're going a bit to a meta level now, but you also need to automate the upgrades in your stack, and you also need to have a path forward that doesn't take time away from your product development teams, even though they know it's important. Yeah, you know also that business priorities always trump technical priorities. So
Yeah.
you have to make it as easy and as seamless as possible to upgrade your technology stack. And one of the cool things I think that I also want to highlight here for this engineering audience is that we use a tool called Error Prone, which is a Google open source project, which is exactly geared towards these kind of situations where you at scale want to be able to rewrite your code to newer versions of libraries and newer versions of a language, Java in this case. And the reason why we can do this is because we also invested heavily in platform teams. Because, as I said, we have a relatively uniform tech landscape, which means that we can go all in. So, for both the Python and the Java stack, we have dedicated platform teams that are working on this kind of tooling and that are enabling the other teams to move faster and to keep up with the latest developments. And this tool, this error prone tool, yeah, allows us to, in an automated fashion, express all of the rewrites, all of the upgrades, all of the sort of things that you would otherwise have to do by hand and apply this across all of our code bases, which I think is a pretty cool achievement.
Surely that is an insane reduction in time spent on actually doing that manually. Or to my ears, it feels like it is.
For sure, for sure. So just to give you an impression, some of the changes that we roll out, you're talking about changing tens of thousands of lines of code across different code bases just at the flick of a switch rather than doing this by hand. So that is definitely a massive win in terms of productivity. And what is really cool, and I also wanted to share this, is that we invested in this, but we also open sourced this recently. So a lot of these rewrite rules and a lot of this tooling around being able to do this at scale for Java code bases, we have open sourced as a project called Error Prone Support, which Picnic actively still develops and heavily use internally. But we're also seeing now other companies adopting this. So if you are a developer in a company using a Java tech stack, highly recommend looking at this tooling and checking it out because it can save so much time and it can give you confidence to move fast and actually keep up with the latest developments in your tech stack.
Yeah, I'm actually going to put that in a link below, in
Awesome.
all
Yeah.
honesty, and check it out after the podcast. That sounds awesome.
Mhm.
Coming back to the tech radar, there's so much new technology that is always coming out there and available to engineers. Surely there has to be use cases in each of these technologies that are attractive to a business problem, let's say. How do you then actually make that decision on that technology is not right for us or that is right for us? What are the
Mhm.
factors that you need to take into consideration? Because I can imagine this tech radar is constantly filled with new things that you could introduce into your stack.
Yeah, so of course, we all know that the tech world is moving super fast, which means that you can do a lot of things, but there's only so much time. So what we have is we have a group of dedicated people who want to keep up with this in terms of filling the stack radar. But then there's also another group of people, or at least an overlapping group of people, who follow along and also try to apply and see what does this mean for my team, for my product, for my business counterpart. And what we often see happening, and we also highly encourage this and want to facilitate this as a tech team, is that we take the time to do small experiments with new technology. Because only if you start using it for real, and not just reading about it and not just looking at the documentation, but really just putting together a small prototype or just a small trial. Only then you can decide together whether it makes sense to take the next step.
Got you. Okay. I feel like we can dovetail quite nicely actually into the Tech Academy, talking about technology, and then we can circle back to customer excellence because there's a couple of really interesting things that I want to touch on there about how data driven you are. But the Tech Academy, lay that out for us. What does that look like at Picnic, and how much are you investing into that?
Yeah, happy to do so. So, as a startup, you don't really have any choice. You start hiring people with experience, they need to hit the ground running. You have an MVP to deliver, and you have to find your product market fit. That's all fine. But at a certain point, you start scaling, you start hiring more and more people, and it gets harder and harder to find these exact matches, right? People who are perfect fit for your stack, perfect fit for your team. And then the question becomes, what do you do? Do you double down and just try harder? Or do you think a bit beyond that and think about, okay, but what can we do as a team to actually
Mm,
enable people who might not yet be as experienced to grow into a role where they fit a picnic in this case? And roughly 1.5, 2 years ago, we actually decided, okay, that is what we want to do because we're now at a size that we can also support people. So what I did is, together with a few other people, is launch this Tech Academy initiative. And the main idea is that we want to enable also to hire people just right out of their computer science study and join us. Now, obviously, joining a team out of school, it's challenging, right? So what we did here is we put together a program that has three main elements. So the first element is that we, in the first months, offer them training on the particular technologies that Picnic uses. So of course, you can know Java, but that doesn't mean that you can actually build software at Picnic, because we have our own way of using it. We have our own libraries and frameworks that we use. So we have a training program that people can latch onto, and we actually have some internal trainings for that, but also are working with external, let's say, luminaries in the tech world to do this training. So that's part one. Um, but then you're not there yet. The second part of this tech academy is that we also invest in these people by having dedicated mentors in the teams that they will be placed in. So we reserve time for them to actually work with seniors, to pair up, to do like pair programming, but also review pull requests together, uh, talk about technology in the applied context of the team, and just give everyone space for that. So you're not expected to, for 100%, start diving into your team's work and start contributing from the first day. But you actually get the room to grow and to be mentored in that way. And as a third pillar of this program, we also understand that everyone's different. Everyone has a slightly different backgrounds. So you might also want to just do a bit of self-study and fill some of the knowledge gaps that you see once you are starting out at Picnic yourself. So we offer access to a learning platform with lots of content, lots of books, and anything that you might want to access as an engineer, you get access to if you join us through this tech academy. So by putting these three elements together, we've been able to successfully onboard many junior engineers, and we actually launched this program January last year. We've had two groups completing this program last year, and another group starting actually last month. So for us, it has been a great experience because people who are eager to learn, who are enthusiastic, but just don't have the work experience yet, and they have a super hard time usually in the hiring markets. And by offering this, yeah, we give them opportunity to grow much faster than they would otherwise.
What did you learn, or what did Picnic learn from this process?
That's a great question. So, on the one hand, what we learned is that I mentioned three elements to this program. Is that the mentor actually ties it all together, right? So it is very important to have people within the company who are willing to also invest a bit of their own time into others. And once you do that as a mentor, I've seen a lot of people actually really enjoying this, really also seeing that they can themselves act as sort of a multiplier for the team. But this is really key. We can put all the trainings out that we want. We can put all of the learning material out that we want. But if there's not someone who's really invested in your success when you join a company as a junior, then yeah, it still doesn't work out. So that is definitely something that we've learned along the way. The importance of mentoring here.
I think onboarding and training for any engineer at any company is a challenge, or something that you have to get right, or as a business you have to get right. So bringing in people who are new to let's just say a commercial technology environment must be quite challenging, but successfully deploying, if you like, two teams last year and going again, that's great. And honestly, it's a sustainable route. It can power sustainable growth going forwards. Seems like you've got the formula right. So well done.
Exactly. Thanks, and we're really happy with the results that we're seeing indeed.
Good. Let's come back to the customer excellence part, because I know that there is a huge emphasis on technology supporting your runners. And I know that's a Picnic term, and you can tell the audience about what
Mhm.
runners are. But help us understand a couple of elements: being data driven, a service coach, and your real time rules engine. These three things would be really great to explore.
Yeah, of course. So it's important to understand that we only have two real touch points with our customers, right? So the first one would be when they open our app and start using the app. Uh, and the second one is the only actual physical contact that we have between customer and Picnic, which is when our runner, which is the term that we use for the person driving the electric vehicle, arrives at your home and hands you your groceries. Now, it's very important to make the most of both of these touch points, because in the end, the way people experience this really shapes the way they perceive your service and whether they come back or not. So zooming in on the second touch point, so these runners that arrive at your home, obviously they need to arrive at the right address, they need to have the right groceries, etc. These are all like this table stakes. Um, but we want to go beyond that. So we built a system for that. We have a runner app that we developed ourselves that does the navigation, that makes sure that everything is fetched correctly and delivered correctly. But we want to go a step beyond that and also personalize sort of the service that the runner can give to the clients. This is where the service coach comes in. So what we do at Picnic is that we also maintain sort of a broad picture of what the journey of a customer has been so far. So you can imagine that sometimes something goes wrong with an order, right? You might have gotten a lesser quality product the previous time. And what we do through the service coach is make sure that all of this data that comes from quite a few different systems in our landscape is bundled and is presented to the runner in such a way that they can use this in their conversations with the client, with the customer. So they can say, okay, well, maybe you had some bad tomatoes last time. By the way, we put a free packet of new tomatoes in there. We hope you enjoy it. And please let us know if it doesn't work out this time either. Something like that. And there's tons of kind of flows that we have in our backend systems that trigger these kind of events, these kind of things that happen in the customer journey. And this is where this rule engine that you mentioned comes in, because ultimately we don't want to burden our development team with working out all of these events and flows, etc., and then putting this together and making up the rules of what to show in the service codes. We very much want to enable our business counterparts at Picnic to do this. So what we did, we built a more generic rule engine that you as a business user can use to define, if this happens and that happens, then this should be shown to the runner in the service coach. We're in a very simple format. Yeah, people can define rules to react to a lot of things that can happen during an order, during a customer journey. And in this way, we're able to we're able to create a generic platform that can be used by our business to define these kind of rules, which massively enhance the customer experience without all of these rules having to be hand coded by developers. Because, as you know, I mean, there's only limited development time available, and there's lots of other things that we also need to take care of as a tech team. So this is, on the one hand, I would say an example of building a more generic platform towards the business. On the other hand, also a very good example of how such a platform has been used, not to optimize internal processes, etc., but to really change the way customers experience our service.
I was going to ask that rules engine. For me, it would feel quite complex to understand, how that's being built. And you touch on it as in that is so much business time that's being spent on potentially new rules as you continue to scale. So you mentioned it's a generic platform. Can you help me understand how that actually works, just in a little bit more detail?
Yeah, of course. So many business analysts at Picnic, they're not developers per se,
Yeah.
but they do have a bit of knowledge of Python or JavaScript, and they know how to script their way around. So what we built is an engine where we, in a very structured way, expose all of the events that can happen within our systems, where business analysts can write small snippets of JavaScript code or Python code that we then host in a reliable and sort of production ready way in this rules engine. And they don't have to worry about scaling it out or making it resilient, making it safe, etc. That is all taken care of by the platform. They only really have to think about, what is it that I want to achieve. For example, they may want to give a discount if 3 times in a row something did not go right with an order. Or they might want to incentivize people to order a bit more frequently and send push messages at some point. These are all things that you can, as a business analyst within Picnic, quite easily express as a rule, as a snippet of code in this rule engine. Now, obviously, there might also be use cases towards the future where we even want to offer this to people who are not, let's say, as analytically and inclined and don't know any coding at all. So then you end up at more of a visual kind of tool. In principle, we have all the things in place to be able to support that if we wanna move in that direction as well.
That's pretty awesome. And I think taking that rule engine, taking that service and that data driven approach, expanding that into new territories and countries, I think that level of service I feel is unbelievable. And obviously it's powered from the technology that you've built. And it feels like you've deeply thought about the experience that you want to give to customers in a technology format, but also in terms of like a business sustainability format with obviously the core of what Picnic does as a business. It's
Exactly.
awesome.
And we need to do this because, as I mentioned, we're not just active in a single country, we're active in many countries where we do want to run the same systems. But as you can imagine, yeah, customer flows, customer interactions can differ, of course, between regions, between countries. So by abstracting away sort of this capability of defining rules, we're able to give a lot of flexibility to our country-based teams as well, to as they see fit for that region.
Yeah, good. Expansion's obviously key for you in the coming years. Help us understand away from the tech academy where you will want to grow some of your teams if you are looking to continue to hire. Obviously, lots of people listen to the podcast. They do express interests in businesses that they listen to. So it would be great for our viewership to understand a little bit more about Picnic's 2023 and what you'll go on to hire and beyond that.
Yeah, of course. So just to start with the question that you had about hiring, yes, we are still hiring. We actually have a lot of plans to grow and to build out our systems to support the growth that you just mentioned. So on the one hand, our fulfillment centers that are fully automated. There's much more ambition behind the first one that we have in the Netherlands to expand this in a wider fashion as well. Also, to iterate on the formats and to make sure that we, as we roll out new fulfillment centers, for example, in Germany, that we keep improving, keep innovating there. So
Yeah.
that's definitely an area of expansion. So in practice, this means that we're still very much looking for talented Java developers to join our team. Python developers as well. As I mentioned, those are our main stacks at the moment. And if you look at 2023 as a whole, then France, Germany, and the Netherlands, they are all very much part of this expansion plan, where we see that in the Netherlands, we are in a much more mature phase, and in Germany and France, there's still so much to explore, which means that you run into questions like, okay, what kind of payments methods, for example, should we support if we go to a new country? Which again brings a lot of cool challenges to a lot of teams within Picnic to expand on that. And there's many more areas like that that need a lot of tech work being done if you go to more countries. So yeah, in short, yes, we're still growing and we're still hiring.
Are you only hiring technologists in Netherlands?
We hire pretty widely, but we do offer relocation. So I would say roughly 80% of our team is non-Dutch, so international. So in that sense, we have a very diverse team, and we're not just aiming to hire people from the Netherlands.
Amazing. And obviously, you've got some excellent plans, hopefully, this year for the Tech Academy. Where can we direct people to go to for just general career applications? Where's the best place?
So if you're interested in anything that you heard and you want to see what's there, join.picnic.app is the site to go to. I also want to highlight that we have an engineering blog at blog.picnic.nl, which is also a really, really cool way to see what we are working on and sort of the cool challenges that we're tackling as a team.
I'm going to attach that below for our viewership as well. And I think the error-prone example will be in there as well. And I think that's really useful for people to be able to take that away and understand how they can actually automate some of these upgrades. That's pretty cool. Sander, I want to say a big thanks for coming to talk to us in Picnic version 2. We had Daniel years back talk about robotizing warehouses, and for you to give us what's happened in the last 3 years and where you're going over the next 1-2 years is awesome. And seeing some of the differences, even myself, is great. So I just want to say a massive thanks for coming to join us today.
You're welcome, and it was my pleasure.
And for everyone else listening, like, share, subscribe, show friends. They've obviously got some awesome opportunities that are Netherlands based or Amsterdam based. We can offer relocations. And if you are looking to step into technology, we've spoken a little bit about the Tech Academy that Picnic have launched in 2022. So hopefully a really good opportunity for people. And thanks a lot, and bye for now. Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode. Massively appreciate you listening and checking in with us. If you want to find out more about us and what we're doing, please check us out on social media. What we're trying to do at Engineers is build a community to drive knowledge sharing and experiences. On Twitter, we can be found Engineers.io. It's no underscore. We've also got a website, which is engineers.io. These links will all be posted in the description. Any feedback and comments are massively appreciated. We're always looking to improve on where we can. Thanks, guys.